I'm Orlando Jones, and I just want you to know that the Moana Nui Podcast will be starting soon. Stay tuned, yo.
I'm Veronica Taylor, and from myself and Ash Ketchum, I just want to say, Moana Nui, I choose you!
So hi everyone, and thank you for joining the Moana Nui Podcast. We're so excited for you to be joining us for tonight's episode. If you watch our series, every month at this time of the month, we have our Develop Your Talents episode with Sue-Ann Hung with the Center for Asian Pacific American Women. We're so excited to talk about today's topic, but of course, before I introduce our guest, I wanted to give a few announcements. First, our friends at Freestyle Comics, they are getting ready for their FSK Con, a comic event that's been growing since the start of this indie comic. It's going to be taking place at a local school in Columbus, Ohio, where they're going to be having art, comics, games, contests, presentations, panels, and so much more. It's a great event to geek out, learn about future careers, and see characters that look like you. It is both in person if you're in the Ohio area and a virtual event. So you can join whichever way is comfortable for you. If you want to keep up to date of all the events that they will be having going on, you can go to their Facebook event page where you can follow that and get all the updates of everything going on, all the panels, and how you can watch virtually or attend in person. And also another quick announcement, starting today, our friend Cosplays by Shinobi has a new Kickstarter called Captain Zero Into the Abyss. They're doing a part 2 to this short film, and it's a deeper dive into the world and the psyche of the main character. This is an animated series, and it stars Angela Ross, Keith David, Zoli Griggs, Cody Galloway, and Martin Toro, who are going to be voicing several characters in the series. So if you're a fan of any of those actors and actresses, definitely support this Kickstarter. It's going on now for the next 30 days to raise money to create the second part. And just go to the link that is in your comment section to check out the Kickstarter, learn more about it, and see how you can support. And now let's get ready to introduce our panel. First, we're going to introduce the fairy godmother of talent development. If you've watched our show before, she has been deemed this by the show and many others. She's a Wonder Woman of our time, doing so much within the community, helping develop so many women across the continent with her cohorts and her different programs and conferences. So please help me welcome Sue-Ann Hung from the Center of Asian Pacific American Women. Welcome, Sue-Ann.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Dana, for that wonderful introduction. I almost feel like I need an outfit for that fairy godmother situation.
Yes,
so we'll have to talk about
you do.
It. Yeah, I'm like, I
you
don't
need
even know
that
where that came from.
with a little Superman, symbol right there.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited. Tonight's episode is really with my friends. And so I can't wait to have this roundtable, but please go ahead and introduce these awesome ladies.
Well, we're definitely excited about our round of our panelists that we have. The first panelist we have is Marcy Thomas. She is the Vice President, Portfolio Loan Manager with Grandbridge Real Estate Capital LLC. Uh, and she's been with them for 23 plus years of, she has 23 plus years of experience in commercial loan servicing, assets, and portfolio management. She also is a United Way VIP alumni, board member of the Gulf Women Mean Business Foundation, and a volunteer with the Family Selection Committee for Atlanta Habitat for Humanity. And of course, she is involved with so many other things in the past, including the board of the Georgia Center of Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Member Services Committee of the Southeast Real Estate Investment Advisory Council, and so much more. So please help me welcome Marcy Thomas.
Woohoo!
Thank you for the warm welcome, Dana, and thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you for being here. And our next panelist is Melva Holt. She is the CEO and founder of Pace Leadership, and she is an experienced HR executive with over 18 years of corporate experience within the consumer products and industrial distribution industries. She is a CIF accredited associate certified coach and a certified master coach through the Center of Coaching certification. She also has a Hogan assessment, 5 behaviors, and a Rejuve certification provider. So please help me welcome Melva Holt back to the show again.
Hi, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Thank you for that welcome.
Welcome again. And last but certainly not least, our third panelist is Jennifer Kinzinger. She has spent 32 years at State Farm's. Sorry, there's a gnat. State Farm. And she was at State Farm's in various leadership and corporate roles in the United States and Canada. As a leader and mentor, she had a passion for developing talent and leading effective, engaging, and productive teams. She has successfully executed and led employees through several large organizational changes while maintaining a focus on outstanding customer service. And right now, she is tackling a new career in her life. She is enjoying the new career of retirement. Let us welcome Jennifer to the show tonight. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. Sue-Ann is not letting me retire, obviously. So I'm here to spend some time with you guys tonight, and I'm really excited about it.
Well, you're just retired from corporate America. You're now in a different form of a new career now.
Absolutely, 100%, and it's great.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Sue-Ann so we can dive in to the what are the gotta haves for the job and career. Hand it over to you, Sue-Ann.
Thank you so much, Dana. And everyone, just so you know why I actually invited these 3 amazing leaders tonight is because they all have a very different path, and they have different ways of how they've gotten to where they've got to. So I wanted them to share their story, because what I'm finding is that there is no one way to get somewhere in terms of your career, but there is some things that are important, I think, to consider when you're thinking about a job or career, and the fact that there are things that ignite your passions. And you're going to see that with our panelists tonight. So let me start off with Marcy first. Marcy, can you share with the group just your personal background first, and maybe a little bit about your family, just get us started?
Sure. Thanks, Sue Ann. I'll tell you, I'm a late bloomer, and I'm always the junior person in the room, which is a blessing to soak up the energy and learn from so many wonderful people in my career. I started in commercial real estate 20 something years ago, knowing nothing about commercial real estate, but had people in the organization to teach me. I'm not a job hopper, so my 20 something years have spanned only 2 companies, but with acquisitions and mergers, it's had various different names, but really only 2 companies over this time, but not 2 jobs, not 2 roles, but just staying dedicated to those companies. In that time, I did not have my undergrad degree. I was always quite embarrassed that I hadn't finished. So I just stuck to it and got my undergrad at 40 and decided that time is scarce. So I'm not going to spend any more time in the classroom pursuing my master's or anything further. I probably should have 3 PhDs with all the credit hours I have over those years. But I took on getting my designations in the industry that I'm in, and doing that to be the subject matter expert and surrounding myself again with people that laid the groundwork before me. One thing that Dana hadn't mentioned, which is kind of new to my portfolio these days, is I've taken on in the industry through the Mortgage Bankers Association the role of DEI vice chair, which I am so humbled to be able to be part of in my industry of white man banking world, and that transformation that's happening in that space, as well as the philanthropic chair for one of our subcommittees. So I've learned in all of these years that service leads, that I did not get here without people assisting me. So in my pursuit of the next chapter of my career is helping next generation through mentoring and giving back of time and talent.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your new role, but that capacity continue to expand, Marcy. I know, I don't know, have you said no to anything before? I'm just saying.
I do. When I step back, you take one step back and I get 2 more things added to my plate. But you know what, Sue Ann, that's a really good point, is that you resize your day, your week, your life for the things that you're most passionate about.
That's right.
And so this is a great infusion of energy for me to go back to home base and whatever I'm doing, to feel really excited about, the impact that I can have just sharing my story and hearing the stories of Melva and Jennifer. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you, Marcy. Melva.
Yes. So I'm inspired by your story, Marcy. So thank you so much. I love being here and meeting other wonderful women. For me, I would say I'm on my 3rd career now at this point in time, which is I can remember being asked what I wanted to do when I grew up in high school, in college. And I was always like, grow up. Like, what does that mean? I have no idea. So I always say, I reserve the right to change my mind, and I only, every 5 years. So let's keep going. So a little bit about my career. I went to school, got my undergrad in chemical engineering, and started right out of college at a large organization working in a manufacturing facility as an engineer, learning how to do all the things that I had studied for a number of years. I worked, started leading people in maybe about the first year point in my career, and stayed leading people and doing engineering a little bit on the side for the next 3 years. So I spent about 4 years in that overall. And then I said, you know what, there's something else I wanted to do. I had no idea that it was called HR, but I knew there were things I enjoyed doing. And someone actually had to share with me, well, that's actually what HR does. I knew I liked developing people. I knew I liked, really kind of doing what we would call culture work. At this point in time, I don't know what we were calling it back then, but they pointed me to HR, and that started a career in HR, which was another 14 years. And then just over 3.5 years ago, I left corporate America to start my own leadership development firm. And so that's what I do today. And for me, it's all about how do I help people reach their potential, and specifically, how do I grow organizations and help them build cultures of accountability and inclusion through empowering and skilling up their mid-level managers. Because all those 18 years that I spent, what I saw over and over was there's such an opportunity to serve a group that doesn't get served very often. And so that's my passion. And so Marcy, you said, you kind of resize things to fit where your passions are. And I totally agree with that. I talk about I'm intentionally busy. I'm very intentional with my time. I have 3 kids, husband as well. So there's a lot going on for me most of the time. But I really like showing up in places where I feel like I can help others grow and be who they need to be based on their true desires. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Melva. I love the fact that you've deliberately pivoted, and we're going to hear more about that. But also, she did not mention she has twin girls, and I got a chance to see one of them dance a couple weeks ago. So that was amazing. So Jennifer, let's share about your story. Now, I know you didn't expect to be in front of a camera again, but once
That's
you're in my
okay.
circle, I pull you in and you don't get out, right?
I know it's one of those things, and I'm used to it by now. I've known you a long time. And so a little bit like Marcy in the fact of 1 or 2 companies, I really worked for State Farm for 32 years, but in many capacities. I started out my career out of college, and I was not a specific major. So I was a political science major. So what do you do with that, right? Law school, or who the heck knows? So at the time I came to State Farm, I really didn't know what I wanted, right? You're young, you're 21, 22 years old. And I was like, oh, it's a job. I think I can do that. I'm not really sure what it is, but let's go. And I ended up in an organization and in a place that I found primarily in the claims department that I loved. It ignited the customer service piece of me. I was working with people, climbed some roofs in the early days, and heaven forbid we'll never do that again. But I found within that organization a culture that worked to develop people. And that was something that was important to me as well. And I like to pay that forward. And I think throughout my career, that was the thing I always tried to do. I went into leadership pretty early in my career and then moved through. I couldn't hold a job. That was always my joke when I moved to a new one is, well, I can't hold a job. I held one for a few years. Now I've moved on to another, but it was amazing opportunities. And I got a chance to see different parts of the organization. I got to interact with different people. I had to make a lot of choices along the way. And that's one of the things I think, especially as people get into their mid-careers, they start to look at what matters to me, what makes me feel good about coming to work every day. And, you hit that. I hit that point in my career where I was like, where do I want to go with this? Where can I make a difference? And I hit a point where I recognized that developing people and leading people was what made me happy. And if you're happy in your work and your career, you make a difference to other people. And then you get to see, I watched young folks come in behind me, and then some of them leapt ahead of you. And that I was so proud of that. And it was, as I look back on my career, that was the biggest thing, that passion about what I did and the difference that I made to other people. And hoping that they're paying it forward too, right, as they develop in their careers. I'm now, I think Sue Ann noted that I recently did, actually kind of officially retire. And so now I'm in a kind of a second phase of career, right, that will happen to some of you at some point in time. And it's what's really fun, right? And you start honing in on what else do you like to do. And I spent a little bit of time for a couple of years, and I went out of the claims arena into the sales side of insurance and working in commercial. And that opened up a whole new world, met a whole group of new people when I moved here to the Myrtle Beach area. And then, education, continuing ed, I still do that. I even found recently that I can take university college courses in South Carolina for free because of my age. So, but as a career, moved a lot of places. One of the things, maybe we'll get to it somewhere along the way, is that in some organizations, mobility becomes a big thing. And that was one of the things I had to grapple with family. I have a daughter that's now grown and married, but when they're young, how do you do that? And does that work for you? And what are the limitations that you have by choice, right? And how do you live with those, or how do you make decisions about that's what's right for me? And then what kind of career decisions do you make from there?
I love it.
And now I'll shush.
Well, all three of you are in different places in career. And I think that's what I wanted to, demonstrate, because this is there is not one path, but there are ways to get to success. So Marcy, how do you define success? Like when you look at your career, how do you define that?
Joy. For me, it is, do I regret the decisions I've made and where I'm at? Or do I feel joyful about where I am and my surroundings? I really like what Jennifer said when she led off about it being the right culture for you, because our stories are all so different. But picking an organization, whether it's a career, a volunteer position, a job, a leadership role, a board, it's got to be the right culture for you. And so I define success for myself by not my paycheck, not the, the retirement plan, not the flexibility of, telecommuting versus in office. It's, am I fulfilled with the work that I'm doing? And am I proud to be able to share that story with others? And I wouldn't replace that for anything. So I feel like I'm in a successful place. Are there people that have outpaced me? Sure. Are there people that are still trying to play catch up? Yes. Their story is not my story, nor vice versa. So I think that when I stopped looking left and right and I stayed in my own lane, I really could measure the success between me and my own finish line, not me and others.
I love that, Marcy, because you're defining what success is for yourself that has nothing to do with other people. And then the second thing I loved what you said about is the fact that, the fact that you got your degree when you were 40. And you started your career when you started it. It wasn't this linear path that you made. One thing that I was curious about, how did you get into the commercial side of things? Like, what was the impetus that got you there?
So my hand was kind of forced. I started off in residential customer service, and as most financial institutions and banks do, mergers, my position was going away, and I had just moved to Atlanta. So I'm thinking to myself, do I really want to move up to Virginia right now? I don't know anybody. It was scary. So for the right position, I guess further along in your career, you take those chances and turn them into opportunities. But I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, didn't know anything about anything. And so there was an opportunity to move from commercial, from residential. And it's kind of funny because it's like it was SunTrust Mortgage at the time, come full circle to be back in the SunTrust house again with Truist. But it was, I don't know what I'm doing here, and do I want to continue? And this headhunter came in and interviewed all of the personnel that were being displaced, and everyone was so impressed for going out for a fancy lunch and bringing their resumes and looking their best. And I come in, again, not knowing the business accoutrement of how to conduct yourself in these interviews. And the question is, where do I see myself in 5 years? And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, not even 25 yet. I don't know where I see myself in 5 days. But what I'm hoping for is to have a 20-year anniversary lunch with a company one day. And the woman just wrote me off and just dismissed me as being just ridiculous. And I said, wait a second. I never said I want to do the same job for 20 years. I said, I'd like the opportunity for a partnership. If it's mutually beneficial in a right to work state like Georgia, why can't I stay and celebrate a successful career? And she did not place me at the organization where she was placing everyone else. One of the VPs at SunTrust was coming over to commercial. I had worked on one project with him to help a client. This was when we had microfilm and microfiche and go back and research loan histories with all of them. And I was committed to not punching the clock, get the job done, find the situation, the problem for the client. And he was impressed by one interaction, one project together, that he sent my resume over and got me an interview. So that's how I took the leap, starting something I never imagined would turn into where I am today.
I love it. I love that because, the fact that you shined and somebody noticed and recognized, and that was a huge opportunity. So I love that. And there are people who write you off, and it's unfortunate, but they don't go deeper into the beyond the surface, right? So,
and the true thing here, Sue-Ann, is you shine when you're not expecting to, when you are your authentic self and doing the best job. If I had tried to, if I had been looking to impress others, I mean, people see through that automatically, I think. And she knew I was going to be a flight risk. She knew I'm going to send these people to this company. She's going to call me every single day when she gets laid off in 60 days from now and say, this is not a 20-year luncheon, lady. So it happened for a reason.
I love that. Melva, how do you define success in your career?
It's pretty similar to what Marcy said. For me, it's do I feel like I'm always looking for two things wherever I am at that point. I'm looking for, am I in a position where I feel like I can truly, offer something, offer my skills, offer something that's going to help the organization or help, people in a meaningful way. So I need to be able to contribute at the level I feel like I can contribute at that point in time. And then two, what am I learning? Am I in a position of learning? And so, I spent 14 years at one organization and navigated, I don't even know how many jobs I had, but every 18 months to 3 years, I was in a new role. And so that was the way the organization operated. It was exciting. It was fun. I honestly thought, what will I do when I have to hold a job for longer than like 3 years? So I hear you, Jennifer, on that. I didn't know what that was going to be like. And moving, I was always just looking for, what are the tools? Like, what are the new things I'm going to learn? And what are the tools that I'll leave that position with on the back end? And so it really kind of helped me keep focused. So for me, that success is always depending on, can I say that I was able to, use my skills to the fullest? And on the opposite side, did I learn something?
I love that. It's I'm giving you my best, and then the learning, the connections, and the contributions, that it makes a huge difference. Jennifer, how about you?
So I'm pretty similar to Melva in the learning, and success for me was the difference I made with people. If I didn't feel like I was making a difference in the people that I worked with lives, I didn't feel like I was doing enough. And so I always felt really good about that. Success for me was also always being able to learn. And I talked a minute ago about I'm still looking to learn. It doesn't matter. I got my master's degree in my 50s. State Farm offered immense opportunities, kind of like you've got the CCIM and CCMS, Marcy, right? I had alphabet soup behind my name as well. I guess I could have put that up there, but I did extensive continuing education in my career. So so success for me was, I was happy, and I'll throw in my family was happy, right? Because all throughout my career, and I think a lot of people face this, is if that you want all those parts of your lives to work well together, right? Because if they don't, it makes things pretty tough. So my success not only was my career was great, and I loved my job, I loved the people like Sue-Ann that I worked with. I have relationships and friendships for the rest of my life now because of who I met and who I worked with, but it also encompassed my family as well. It was really important. I took a pause in moving up, if you want to call it, during the years my daughter was in junior high and high school. And I knew at that time when I made that decision to pause that was a 5-6 year pause, and you could get passed by in those times. But I was really good with that decision, and it was okay. And a month after she graduated high school, we were off again. I got promoted and off I went. But during that time, I was very deliberate about continuing to push myself and offer to do new things and help with different projects. But so success was all those things, right? It was learning, it was balancing that with my family, and then just a pure passion and love for what I did and the people that I worked with.
It's about creating the whole life, is what I'm hearing you say.
It is
Not just a career.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you guys aware of your values when you decided that you were going to pursue your career? Like, was there specific things you were looking for in terms of aligning with your values? I'm always curious about that, because I feel like half the time we're falling into situations or jobs and things almost accidentally. But I'm curious if you guys really thought about that as you were pursuing your career. So whoever wants to answer that first.
I'm happy to start. Absolutely. You know, when I think back to when I was 22 and about to enter the workforce, I had no clue what value, you know what I mean? I did not have a word for it, but I was looking for what felt right. And so I can remember interviewing with companies and going to visit their sites and walking away, and they're like, wow, we want you. And I just would have this feeling of like, ugh, I can't put my finger on it, but that's not it. And so when I found, my first organization, I felt like it was so right. I felt like it was perfect. It was like walking into a warm hug for me. And I was like, oh, this is great. And for me, that was important because it was the exact same feeling I had when I chose the college I went to. So, 4 years prior, I had a dream school. I just knew I was going there. I showed up on campus and I hated it. And I had obviously applied to other schools, thank goodness. And so I went to the school that I just applied to because they waived my fee. And I loved science and technology. And I went to I had been accepted months earlier, and it was the last place I visited, and it felt the same way. So I knew I had some guidance for that. And, every place that I went, obviously over, 18 years, you love some things. There are places where maybe, you're ready to get out of them a little bit quicker than others. But every single time, culture was huge. And for me, if the culture was not what I wanted it to be, I tried to figure out how I could make that place better. So I always wanted to leave a place better than I found it. And insert warmth and authenticity into it, and whatever that looked like in that situation. And so when I think about choosing the next company, when I left that 14 years and going to the next place, it was absolutely about that as well. And I will tell you that, what sealed the deal for me there is I remember interviewing, and I accepted the offer, and they were having a senior HR council meeting, and I needed to leave on like a Sunday to get there. They were going to start Monday morning, and the CHRO called and wanted to speak to my husband, and told him he really appreciated, he understood the impact on my family and really appreciated, understanding and, not allowing me, but really understanding that I needed to come out and just be in a support there. That was like a game changer. I had never had that happen in my career. So, I knew the values of at least the people I was going to work for, their heart, their values aligned with where I was, because family is absolutely first for me in everything that I do. And so that was beautiful to see. So it's absolutely been important.
I love that. It's like this putting your whole, again, it's the whole life. They're looking at the whole thing, but also you seem to be pretty good at your gut instincts, listening to your gut early. I don't know if we all trust our gut instincts back then. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I learned it. And Sue Ann, I will tell you, when I have not followed my gut, the decision is regretted every single time. Now, luckily, I don't have that many, but I can tell you, every time I haven't followed it, I have regretted that.
Yeah, that's a good thing. We all have to, listen to probably ourselves a little bit more. But Marcy, what about you? What values did those things influence your decisions about career or place to work?
So because, like I said, there's really only been 2 major organizations I've been with. It was the subsets of which position within the organization best aligned with my values, my work ethic, and where I would succeed most. Where could I contribute the most? Where would my voice actually be heard? It wasn't so much as an intuitive voice for me, so much as sometimes learning by fire and the bumps and bruises you learn along the way. So in deciding which team to work for, which manager, how long do you stay? Do you pursue another opportunity? I've discovered about myself, I'm a very dedicated teammate. And I'll stick it out as long as I need to. If you need me to mop the floors, I'll do that. But, there's going to come a point that I'm going to ask you, do I still need to be mopping the floors? This is the best use of my time, but if you need me to do it, I will. So with some managers I've had in the past, I knew in my gut this was not my happy place. But, okay, can you change the narrative? Can you make this better? Some situations, yes. Some situations, absolutely not. And I had to make some tough decisions for myself. Is it time to pack up and move out? And what do I do at this point? So it wasn't necessarily, I don't know if I feel good about this. I think I feel really good about it. I was always learning in these positions, and it's like, halt, break. What just happened here? Who is this nook in my way? And this person is not Team Marcy. And I don't know that I'm going to thrive in this environment. So to be my chief operating officer is probably the worst job that anyone's ever had, because I want an open door, closed door meeting with you right now to talk about some things, and then we'll figure out the best action plan. Like I said, I've never left an organization, right? I agree with them.
Your loyalty is huge. I mean, that's something that and by the way, she's like that with friends too, FYI. But at the end of the day, though, you're still making conscious decision where you stay within that department or not, based on, sounds like, how is this going? How does this feel? Like you're still listening to your gut, even though you're not saying that.
Maybe so. I can see that. Like, they leveled up when they got me on their team, quite honestly. And
know your worth.
Know your worth. Absolutely.
Know your worth. But now let them pay the tax on it too. Know your worth. And it's been paid back in spades, immeasurably, because it was a learning opportunity, not to go unnoticed that there was situations that had to improve. But I am where I am today, and probably a more mindful manager and more, I guess, agreeable teammate from having to have some real life scenarios, because it's not sexy and glorious day in and day out. We're grinding, we're working, we have a purpose, but collectively, is this stealing my joy? Is it ridding me of my happiness? And is it giving me more stress? I don't mind good stress, but is it giving me negative stress and negative energy? And if so, then you need to change. You need to make personal changes. You need to make professional changes, but you have to invest in yourself and have the courage to do it. I wish I had the courage that Melva had to be able to say, I'm going to change my career. But you know what? I've been so content, not complacent, but content with it. I haven't had a need to yet, but that doesn't mean that in the next chapter, my journey doesn't change. You have to be open to those possibilities.
Absolutely. Paying attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, again, there's no one path for everyone. There's, it just depends on where that leads you, right? That Melva's listening to her gut, big time. And it's working for you. Marcy, You're very strategic about evaluating that joy piece. I love the fact that you said that even happiness has caused stress. It's so true. You guys, It is so true. The good things also can cause stress. Yeah. Promotions can cause stress, right?
Oh, yeah.
So absolutely. Jennifer, how about you?
So values. So I probably was much like Melva again in the early years. Not sure I knew what those were. It was more of a gut instinct about this feels right. But as I stayed with an organization and moved into different roles in different areas, then you start to realize what's important to you. And, one of the things with the organization I was with was I never felt like I was asked to do something that made me cringe in this. And I mean that in the sense of something that felt just in the gut wrong, right? It was ethical. It was, let's do what's right. If it's gray, let's do that in favor of the customer. And those were the things that resonated with me and probably kept me in that organization all those years, because I always felt like I was doing what was right for the people that worked with me, for me, and the customers we serviced. And I think if any of those, and there were a few times those went a bit awire. Sue Ann can probably speak to those days, right? And it didn't feel good. And there was a couple times where I said, ooh, if something doesn't change, I'm not sure that how much longer this is going to last, right? Because then you start to feel that stress, and it's not the good stress. It's the difficult stress. But then that's where you dug into yourself, and either you were going to make a decision to do something else, or you were going to do probably what I did, is I said, okay, well then how can I influence and make a difference? What is it? What are the skill sets I have? What are the, the people that I work with that I think we can, shift mindsets and do those kinds of things. And I think those were the ways that I then kind of got back to the place where everything felt aligned with my values again. Yeah. And I was able to do that. So it, again, went into this lengthy career. Also from I don't know if it's values so much, but it's back to that, what brings you joy. And I had, a few jobs along the way that, I was like, yeah, this is okay. And I know I'm learning a lot, but I also know I've got to start looking for another opportunity, because this is not the place for me to stay. This does not, either I think I'm going to hit a wall in learning. I always go back to learning because that's just what makes me happy. And my daughter thinks I'm insane, but she's like, really, Mom? But, every time I went back to, yeah, this feels right. And this is what I need to do. This is where I need to go. This is how I have to do it. And then who are the people that can help me? That's another thing. If particularly, whether you're with a single organization or you're mentoring and doing work outside, and there goes the dog. I knew that was going to happen. Corgis are tenacious. And, but then you start also looking in the organization to who are the people that can help you, right? That's that whole connection piece. And you want to look, I think you want to look at that, and, who are the people that you admire, maybe. So they're people that you not copy, but right, you look at what did they do with their careers, you reach out to those kind of people, and all those things. And again, you tend to go out to people like, Sue Ann's a good friend of mine, and I think we have very similar values, and people like that are great to have in the organization, because when you reach those hard spots about decisions, you don't have to be alone to make those decisions, right? You can go and you can reach out to peers, people above and below you, for guidance, and, you dummy, or hey, here's a good way to approach that. Here's something else to do. So,
very true.
But it goes back to that. It felt right, and it energized you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was curious, who is what, you don't have to name names or anything, but I was curious about who's the best boss you've ever had. And like, what did they do that made you feel like they were the best boss? Jennifer?
Yeah, I'm thinking. I can name a few bad ones.
Well, we can talk about that too, but
yeah, you know what? The one in particular that I can think of in my career was always encouraging and always pushing, right? So just didn't tell you did a good job, said you do a great job, but they were also very honest about, here's where you have more potential that you're not realizing yet. Mm-hmm. And how can we get you there? But you did a road of self-discovery to get there. Didn't give you the answers, maybe helped, when you got stuck. But the best one I ever had, I did those kinds of things, and it made a huge difference.
Yeah, they pushed you a little further than you probably would have, right?
Yes.
Marcy, how about you? Who's the best? Who's kind of a boss? Kind of literally the best.
So this is going to be me being vulnerable, Sue Ann. No sunglasses on my head, not hiding behind anything, just me sharing. Which for me is kind of hard. I know I'm so like I clench it, right? And I don't let people into a personal side of me a lot of times, but I'll say it's my current manager and my previous manager before him. I was reassigned back in March of this year, realigned portfolios, things change in financial institutions constantly. But what I have learned coming out of, the COVID hibernation is that I really am more introverted than I thought. So a socially extroverted introvert, I need a lot of downtime, quiet time. I need time to process my thoughts on things. So sensory overload has just kind of taken over for me, my anxiety and a little PTSD. I can share this because it's October and it's Employee Disability Awareness Month, but there are different challenges I'm faced with today that I hadn't dealt with years before. So having a very supportive team, having very supportive management that I can approach with these vulnerabilities and share that sometimes may not be the best days, but holding me true to what I need and like being that lifeline. Like we have a weekly scheduled video call, and sometimes I need that. I'm a little detached being here all by myself working, which I enjoy, the process, the style of it, but I still need to engage. I just don't need an overwhelming situation. If we have a conference, I need to know that, and I'm speaking on a panel, it's going to go great. I'll have somebody there supporting me, but I'm going to need to have a few days of decompression time. Like I can't just constantly be on go and be on that, being mindful of don't stack up my calendar with calls all day because it's going to exhaust me. So I've really found it very helpful to have my two most recent managers, given the state of climate and change and everything in organizations these days, to be my advocate. I can thrive, I can perform better because I have someone who I can talk to who understands and is compassionate in ways that I think that we weren't years and years ago.
Marcy, you bring up something that I was at a NAP event today, and one of the speakers said, a lot of times corporations look at people like assets versus people. And what you're bringing out is the fact that you're addressing the person first. And that person has all kinds of things going on. And to be able to be sensitive to those needs so that they can be at their best. I think that's huge. I think that especially after COVID, that's almost should be a requirement, but thanks for sharing and being vulnerable. I appreciate that. Melva.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I've had really two that came to mind, and for very different reasons. The first person who came to mind was someone that I felt like really saw me for the first time, and saw me both at the human level, saw potential that I had, and gifted me with feedback to help me pull that out. And then also advocated and cleared space for me to actually be able to do that. And so very powerful to have someone who gets you. The pieces of me that they didn't understand, they were curious about and wanted to learn. And there's a lot going on in this world, as there still is today. But at that particular time, that really hit home. And so I really appreciated the care and the concern for me, and then how they helped me to build my career from that point. So that's the first person who came to mind. Then the second person was someone who, honestly, everybody has said that this person is incredibly tough to work with. We don't know how you're going to do it. when I was interviewing for the job, this is the toughest person. Are you going to deal with that? Okay. And I found that individual to be just fine. We had a wonderful relationship and we built trust really quickly. And I was just given autonomy out of this world. Like I was just trusted to lead and be strategic and do the things that I was brought in to do with, obviously, discussing, and I have to bring people along, but like just trust it fully to do what I needed to do. So I had a freedom that I hadn't felt before in my career, like in that way. So, those two, I wouldn't be the person with the autonomy if it weren't for the first person who helped to cultivate me into truly showing up and developing and being comfortable with what my superpowers are and being able to bring those to bear.
I love the fact that you started off by saying I felt seen, and I mean, I know that's something that we've talked about, and I think that's huge because you don't want to be just a number, right?
Yep.
And what do they say? Like they always say that you leave your boss, you don't leave the company, right? And that is true. I've experienced that myself personally. But thank you for sharing that. I was also curious, since Jennifer brought it up about the bad bosses, one quality that you're like, I can't work for this person. One quality, what is it?
They lied.
Ooh, integrity.
Yeah, I would go the same way because I was going to say I couldn't trust them.
Trust, integrity. Marcy?
For me, it was rigidness, not being open-minded. To other people have possible contributions and knowledge. Just it's my way or the highway type of mentality.
Yeah, I love that also. And I'm going to say it's all about me kind of a boss. Yeah. It's like, really? It's a very they can manage upward very well, but they're not very good with the people. So yeah, it's all about
self-awareness. Yeah, the lacking of self-awareness.
Oh my gosh, and they continue to get promoted, right? Really? So, yeah. So let me ask you this: how are you managing your whole life? Like, give me some examples of what are you doing to manage your life? You guys all hinted at different things, but I want to kind of be a little bit more explicit. So how do you do that? What are you doing? Nobody's managing their life. Okay.
No, it's a complete disaster.
It's not a disaster.
It's a kaplama. Okay. How are you? Give me an example of how are you doing it?
So I talked about this a little bit earlier about this intentionality that I have to my time. And I've definitely felt like at different times my life was out of balance. And my family suffered for those times when my life was out of balance. Because unfortunately it was never out of balance the other way. Right. Mm-hmm. And so the reason I was hesitating to speak first is because, right, I own my own company now. So I am in complete control of my time. And early on in this thing, I remember having a day where I was just like, oh, that felt like very corporate like. Like I just was drained and I was over programmed for the day and go. And I sat with myself and said, the only reason that can happen is if you do it. Like nobody else is doing it to you at this point. I allowed that to happen. And so I had to get really clear and serious with myself on, so I'm building the life that I want. And so I build the life that I want. So I've mentioned my family. Sue Ann mentioned that I have twin daughters and a son. So there's three of them, all teenagers who are very busy in life right now. And, my husband and I are running businesses and we are just on the go all the time. But when you look at my calendar, what has to be done for family is blocked and it is protected sacredly. I also have my time protected so I can have peace of mind. So I'm not run ragged between, delivering for clients, running a business, family, but to make sure that I take care of myself within that as well. So for me, it really is being true to what I need, understanding where I am, knowing what my quirks are. I know when my high energy levels are, and I protect those so I can be creative within them. I know, like, hey, I need to be here with my kids, so I'm not, skirting up. I protect that time. Occasionally, if I'm out of town or something, I have to deal within that. But I don't want to look back on this period and regret that I didn't show up as the mother and the wife that I wanted to be. So, I live and die by my calendar. I protect it, and I put in there what's important.
Yeah, I love it. And that intentionality, I mean, the calendar can be used as a tool, to your point. And I think if that, a lot of people may not use that intentionally, and it could help.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine. I put everything on there. Things are color coded. So when I look at it, like, I have a sense of what's going on in my day. Is this a high client delivery day? Like, do I have a lot of meetings today? Am I like just in my creative zone today? So at a glance, I know what I'm doing.
I like it. Marcy.
I am learning to be gentle with myself, learning to define my boundaries, softening them so that it's not so aggressive when I need to say something. I have to put myself in timeout because you can't always put other people in timeout. So I'm learning to put myself in timeout, and I'm still practicing this, but then I'll emerge. And so, really for me, it's focusing, like Melva said, when's my high time? When do I know that I can rock and roll something? And then, prioritizing that, my to-dos, my must-to-dos. And in my must-to-dos is my network, my support group, and making some smart decisions about when to change things around, because everybody needs a little Marcy in their life, but not everybody deserves it. So sometimes I have to put them on the sidelines. And that's okay, because it's mutually beneficial that way. If I know that I'm not going to be at my best mentally, emotionally, I'm not going to be present to show up, then I need to put myself in timeout. I had a question, like, I guess it was maybe last summer, and a high school girlfriend of mine addressed this. I've had a lot of loss in my life over recent years. And I said, I don't have any children. Like, what is my legacy? I don't have any. Like, I borrow all my friends' kids. And they're like, no, Marcy, you're missing it. That your legacy is how you've made people feel. And all of the people in your life, whether they're colleagues, coworkers, volunteers, friends. And I thought about that. I said, it's not the work that we do. That's, it's living and, bringing myself, my A game to work, to volunteering, to friendships, showing up, and being present in the moment. All of us on this call today, phones down, completely like engrossed in the conversation, because it was an hour of meaningful enrichment time. So for me, that's how I'm learning to do better, and to kind of learn from those things that you see in the rearview mirror. Like being able to have friends that can call you on your stuff in a gentle way and say, yeah, I can see that. But what can I do to fix this? How can I make things better? How can I learn and grow from it, instead of, well, that was great, thanks for telling me, and then just moving along, actually processing things better.
I love that. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that, you said fix it. Sometimes you don't need to be fixed. Fix, you are who you are, right? And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm like, take it, don't take it, modify. Like, it's kind of like, I'm not attached to the conclusion. It's kind of, I think there's a little bit of a freedom to that, to say, I'm not married to the conclusion, and hey, it's okay. And I'm, you do you, and I don't know. It's just a different place for me. So I completely
mixing it up in my bucket list, which was 100 things. I shrunk it. What's my top 20 things? Let me actually cross something off that list before I add more things that never get done or seen. So being realistic with myself.
Yeah. Sometimes more is just more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You don't need to be in a race. Right?
Right. Yeah, that's right. Jennifer, what about you?
So mine was a God, what were we talking about? No. So mine was balancing family and work, right? And I was also very deliberate about, I have one daughter, and I had a lot of demands in the jobs that I held, but I didn't miss anything unless there was just really no other choice, right? You're out of town or something. I was very, very deliberate about that time and balancing that with work. Don't get me wrong, I worked a lot of long hours and weekends and everything else, but I did it, I felt for the most part on my own terms. And a lot of that was learning how to organize my time and how to manage it, and what tasks were important and made a difference and which ones could you eliminate, right? A lot of people, sometimes you get caught up in, got to do this. And in reality, you probably had to do 3 of those things, not 10 of them. And I got more and more deliberate as the years went by. Some of that's experience, but I was very deliberate about that. And then balancing that with my family was a huge priority. And, if it didn't work around them, then I was like, okay, now we have to go to plan B and think of something else. And I also am like you, Marcy, and I can be on, but I'm an introvert at heart too. And I need my downtime. When we would go to those those conferences and things, I'd get home and I would be exhausted. And I learned that about myself, and I gave myself that space to just go, okay. And then you recharge and then you go at it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, can you believe it's already 9:30? What, really? Where did the time go? So I'm going to say gotta have, since the whole title of this session was the gotta have. What's your one gotta have? Marcy, what's your one gotta have?
Gotta have for in a workplace or in what? In life?
In life. Gotta have.
Joyful peace.
Ooh, joyful peace. I love it. Melva,
Freedom.
Okay, I'm not going to start singing on the podcast. All right, Jennifer.
Happiness.
Yep. And I'm going to say a whole life. So with that, everyone, aren't these women absolutely incredible? This is why I have them as friends, as well as, professional leaders, obviously wonderful, but they're personally my friends. So with that, Dana, come on back. And I can't believe it. Another conversation. It just went so fast.
Exactly. It is so funny. I tell so many people when they come on, they're like, what are we going to talk about for an hour? I'm like, with the right people, it goes by so fast, you don't realize the hour has passed by. And this is another example. Every time Sue-Ann brings some powerhouse, people on the panel, and it just goes by so quickly. You're taking all these nuggets, and you can apply them or see how you can ingrain them into your own career path and your own life itself. So definitely like to thank Marcy, Melva, and Jennifer for your time, and also sharing your nuggets with all of us tonight and everything. And for those that are watching and want to know, like, either wanting to book you at their company or at an event, or how to reach out to book your services, can you tell them how they can reach out or follow you on social media? We'll start with Marcy.
Oh, goodness gracious. I've never been asked that question. They don't like me to share where I'm in the witness protection program. We might have to go through Sue Ann. It has been a complete joy and blessing to be here today. And anytime you want to have another conversation, I would look forward to it.
Awesome.
Contact me if you want Marcy, and then she can screen.
Okay.
I am on LinkedIn, not active user as much as I used to be, but I am on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to go through the Moana Nui Podcast, who will then go through CAPAW and then get approval, and then we'll connect you to Marcy.
There's a process and procedure.
Exactly. You have to go through 2 levels of verification and approval.
That's right.
We may need to do some process improvements.
I'm going to filter my dating app through you next, Dana, and then we have a third line of defense.
Melva has a more straightforward.
I do. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Melva Holt, the Management Maven. You can find me on Instagram, Melva Holt, or my handle's Management Maven. But the Mint Management is missing the E. But if you search Melva Holt, you can find it, or visit me at paceleadership.com, PAISE.
Okay, that needed a Gantt chart. More straightforward though. All right, Jennifer.
Well, Jennifer also has to go through the Moana Nui Podcast
and Sue Ann. Yes. Yes. Call Sue Ann. She can find me. Facebook and Instagram is probably about it. I'm not real active on LinkedIn anymore.
Well, why is this the hardest question the whole night? Why is this the hardest question?
Out of all the questions, I asked the hardest one.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. We do not have fun at these podcasts. We're very serious.
Okay. But sometimes you need some laughter. It's that glue to keep that rapport going, that conversation going, and building that bridge and everything. So
basically, call me.
Exactly.
To book any of these individuals.
Exactly. Well, of course, everybody, I thank everybody who's watching live and those that are watching on the recording on our YouTube channel. Definitely like, subscribe, and click the notification button so you will get the notification of when our episodes go live, so you don't miss any of them. You can interact with us in the conversation, in the comment section, ask questions and such, because we always have our Develop Your Talent segment with Sue Ann on the 3rd Thursday of every month at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So definitely put it on your calendar so you can tune in for some of these nuggets and things to help you develop not only your talent, but also your professional development to help you on your path of wherever you want to go in your career. With all of that, everyone, we'd like to thank each of you for tuning in. Also, a friendly reminder, as you see at the bottom of the screen, you see a QR code. Scan that. That QR code is with a local organization in Maui that is boots on the ground, helping the families that are affected by the fires in Maui, and helping those families with getting the items that they need and helping them through this process. It is not a short-term thing. This is going to be years to come to rebuild Lahaina and everything, and helping those families to get back to where they were. A lot of them, they can only stay in the temporary places for sometimes days, maybe a week at a time, and they have to relocate. So these families in the last month has been relocated 4 different times while trying to still get their homes back that was lost in the fire. So if you have it in your heart to donate or even do research of some of the stuff that they need help with and connect them to other organizations that can help, please scan that and reach out to the organization that is there. That way you can ensure your money and anything you're doing is going straight to those families in Maui that desperately need it. But everyone, we'd like to thank you for tuning in with the Moana Nui podcast. We stream live every Thursday at 7 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. every Thursday. We look forward to seeing you next week. And everybody, we hope you have a great evening and have a wonderful weekend. Everyone, bye, everyone.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then. When they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves the Republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if we put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course. Cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.